and welcome to Naturally Creative. I'm going to show you how to make this. I'm calling it my Morticia knit dress, and it is actually very simple. I'm not going to go too crazy with all the specifics. I'm going to go as basic, beginner friendly as I can. I myself am still rather new to knitting, and I thought that there's a lot of people out there that would probably like this. This is worsted weight yarn that I use. This is going to be done to measurement. If you don't have a way to measure, I got you covered. There's no specialty tools needed for this. If you already have circular knitting needles and a crochet hook of the same size, you're golden. You don't need anything crazy. You don't need stitch markers if you don't have them. If you don't have a sewing measuring tape, you don't need it either. This is very beginner friendly. It is made to your measurements and preferences, so you can make it fit how you want it. If you want it looser, it'll be looser. If you want it tighter, it'll be tighter. If you want it longer, further down the legs than mine, you can do that too. Let's get into this. Okay, so this is a 5mm crochet hook. This is what the paperwork recommends. 5mm crochet hook, 5mm knitting needles. My bad. Tripping over my tongue today. These are both 5mm. If you want longer ones of these, great. If you want shorter ones, it's up to you. You don't have to do it with the size yarn I'm doing it. If you want to do it with a lighter weight, you're welcome to. It's up to you. If you want to do it in a different color, go ahead. This is a very customizable pattern. So, for those of you who do not have anything in the way of a sewing measuring tape, I'm going to show you how to do this. Take your 5mm and you're going to make a chain stitch. If you don't know how to do that, there's a lot of tutorials online. You might be able to pick up from what I'm doing. Now, I know from personal experience from making this dress that it took me 180 stitches for the body of it. This is a bottom up, so you start with the hem by your feet. If you want to try doing it differently, you're welcome to adapt this pattern however you feel, whatever works for you. Okay, so for me, I'm going to start off chaining. I highly recommend you pay attention to your chaining. I recommend having something to write on and something to write with. I'm going to turn this over to an empty page. So, I'm going to start chaining. I'm going to show you how to do this if you don't know how to cast on. If you know how to cast on, go ahead and do that if you already know the size you need. This is supposed to be absolute beginner friendly. Never picked up needles before. Okay, so you got your slip stitch on the hook, yarn over, pull through a loop. That's the chain stitch. Pretty easy. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I have 180 stitches here. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, and I know this is black on black, so it's going to kind of suck, but you're going to pass it around behind you because this is for the body of it. And what you want to do, if I can lean forward enough, you want to make sure that the two ends meet in the front like this, and it's a comfortable size. You don't want it to be tight. You don't want it to be like gonna cut you in half or nothing like that. I'm doing mine a little extra loose just because that's how I prefer it. Now from here, if you want to put it straight on the knitting needle, which is over here, you totally can. I'm gonna show you how to do that a couple times here in the beginning. So I'm gonna chain an extra 1 because that kind of counts as going through that chain. So that's like pulling up a loop through that chain. And then I'm gonna pull out my hook without pulling out the loop and then slide the needle in. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but the working yarn is attached to this side behind the needle. That's, if you're into the terminology, that's knit-wise. You can either, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this well enough. I'm going to try to get closer. You want to poke your needle through. I might actually do this in a better angle. Here, let me do that. Okay, so stuck my needle. I'm going to do this again. So I got that loop on your hook. You're going to skip this one because your needle's already gone through it. And then you're going to go through this next one, pass the yarn under it, and then scoop it through like that. That's number 2. You don't have to do it this way. This is just how I'm doing it. Sorry, that was off camera. There's number 3. Scoop it through. There's number 4. Scoop it through. Sorry, number 5. Yeah, I keep getting that off camera because I'm not very good at trying to do this with a camera in front of me. So we're going to try it this way. So stick your yarn through like you normally would, pull up a loop, slide it on. I'm going to try to do that on camera this time if I can. There we go. That should work. I don't need to be so zoomed in. So you stick your hook through like you normally would for crocheting. You want to go underneath that yarn and then just scoop it through like that. There's number 2. You're going to slide it up and you're just going to flick it over. There we go. And then I'm going to stick it through one more time. Oops, I missed. There we go. And then scoop it through and then up and over. Now, you can do that either way, all the way along the chain. I highly recommend counting as you go. You don't have to if you don't want to. I will be back when I have my first row ready. Okay, so here I am. I've got all 180 stitches on my needles. Now, if you don't want to do the ribbing like I showed you earlier, and I'll show you again. Bleh. This is the 2-stitch ribbing. If you don't know how to purl or you don't like this look, feel free to skip it. So because I did this row, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark it down. That was my first row that I just did. I recommend if you're going to make more than one of these, go ahead and write them down. If you're not, don't worry about it. You don't have to. It's just something I recommend. If you don't have a stitch marker, I recommend taking this. I'm just going to make an X over my finger like this. You turn it into an X. You push that part through the X and you make a loop like that. Kind of looks like a little bow, and you can slide it on your hook. Oops, wrong end. Tighten it down like that, and that can be your stitch marker. You don't have to. It does make it easier to keep track of where you are and whether or not you finished a row. You don't have to count every stitch in every row that way. If you don't want to do that, feel free to do it in your own way. I'm going to go ahead and get the ribbing done, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've gotten the dress done. I'm going to step back a little bit so you can see it. There. I mean, it's not perfect, but for the camera work, but it's 260 rows. I went a little further than I planned on initially because I didn't want it to be like up at the ankle. I wanted it to be closer to floor length. So there's that. You don't need the stitch markers. Those are not a necessity. You can always just write what row you're on paper. This is just something that I use. And then that stitch marker here, I'll show you close up. That stitch marker is meant for knitting. Those other ones are meant for crochet. But I've reached where I'm done with the skirt. I need to split the front and the back. So I'm going to go ahead and split the front, do the 1/2 of the shoulder, and then I'll come back and show you the remainder of the shoulder. Like how to finish off, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so I'm back again. I finished this side of the neckline. I also got the front started here. For this portion down here, I'm going to show you that when I go to do the back. Right now, I wanted to show you the side of the front. I do recommend watching the segment before you try to do it. Like, watch this all the way through, then watch when I start the back. Because there's certain things that I need to explain that may be confusing if you just try to start it. So what I did was I had 180 stitches per row. So I split that in half front to back, which ended up being 90 for the front, 90 for the back. By splitting that, what it does is it gives you a much easier way to do the front and the back. If you want one or the other to be different sizes, do it your own way. It's a nice thing about making things yourself. So here what I have is I've done the start of the armholes up to where the neck splits. This is going to be a V-neck. So what I'm going to do is walk you through the same process that I did for this side, but it's going to be reversed, obviously, because we're doing it over here. If you think that this is going to be too small, this is only half of the neckline. Granted, you're going to do the other half here. Also, this will stretch as you wear it, as you wash it. That is just the nature of knitting. It's not anything you've done wrong. It's just how knitting works. This I'm going to leave on this needle. You do not have to have double pointed needles. That's what these are called. If you only have straight needles, you can work with that. If you only have a circular needle, which is what this one was for the bulk of it, I used a circular needle. This is attached. So you can do the whole thing with a circular needle, but this is easier to film. That's why I'm doing it this way. For this, because this is done technically, this side is done, but I need to cut it so that I can later on stitch the front and the back together in a special technique called Kitchener stitch. You don't have to do that. You can just take a crochet hook, pull one loop through the other, basically making a chain, if you will, until you cast off and you're done. And then you just sew the two halves together. I want to make it cleaner and I want to do the Kitchener stitch. When I get to that point, I will be showing that. I am no professional when it comes to the Kitchener stitch. I don't expect it to be super, like, easy to grasp or anything. There are 1,000 videos out there at least on the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this part here. If you have a darning needle, great. If you don't, fold a paper clip, you open it up, fold it in half. That's all that is. You can use that in place of a darning needle if you have to. I recommend once you fold it like this and you have it on where the yarn is on, then put some tape on this if you can, because that's so much easier. It won't catch as bad when you go through the fabric. This is what I used originally, especially when I was just starting out crocheting. I used stuff that was just folded in half, paper clipped. But I was recently gifted a whole bunch of supplies. I think it was Christmas before last, and I'm finally getting around to using them. This is called a darning needle. It is not sharp. They come in plastic as well. I'd imagine you could probably make them out of wood if you wanted. You can buy them in plastic, metal. I'm pretty sure you can buy them in wood, and who knows what else. So, what I need to do is, for the front and the back, I am going to take this, and I'm going to go oops, that's off camera. So, 1 full length, pinch it there, 2 full lengths, pinch it there, 3 full lengths. That's how I measure when I need to cut stuff off. What did I do with them scissors? I'm just gonna, there they are. It's always handy to have some scissors or snips or something nearby. Even, like, I've cut yarn with nail clippers out of desperation. You don't need to fall to the floor again. Darn it. Alright, so you want this string here to be 3 times the length of this. You're probably going to have extra left over at the end. That's why I do it, is that way I'm not running out of room. So, this end I'm going to make a loop. So, like this, make an X, and then pass the outer arm of the X under that, and then you pull it. It's a slip stitch. If you want a better tutorial, there's thousands of videos out there. Alright, I am going to pull that kind of tight. So, actually, no, I need to start from this end, which is why I have the double pointed knitting needles. Alright, I am going to put my needle through here, pull you on. Oops, shit. I hate when I do that. And yes, I know I'm cussing a lot. It's just me. I'm not worried about it. So there's that. And then you just knit your way along. there's that. Now, once you're separating, oops, that's off camera. Once you're separating the neckline to do a V-neck, what I do is I decrease on the neck side only in the beginning. I do 9 rows of that. You can do your neckline however you want to. If I can find the channel that I learned through, I'm gonna mention them later on. Might even, if I can figure out how to do it, tag them. I'm still relatively new with the YouTube thing. But yes, I am just knitting along. Now, if you are specifically right or left-handed, you're going to need to turn your project doing this. I'm ambidextrous, which means I don't have a dominant or recessive hand. Both work. So I can do right knit, left knit. So in the video, it's going to look rather confusing. I promise it's not as complicated as it is. There are, I wish I could remember the name of that channel. There's a lot of really good YouTube tutorials out there. I was just watching his video earlier. But there are a lot of really good YouTube tutorials on how to do this kind of stuff. Okay, so, oops. Went too far. So, this is the first row in my neckline. Gotta fix that. And so, what I'm going to do is when I get to the neck side of it, which is here, I am knitting 2 together, which means you just stick your needle through 2 in place of 1. You're basically treating 2 stitches as 1. That's how you do a knit 2 together. Okay, so now I'm ready to go back the other way. And so I'm going to knit 1, knit 2, pass 1 over 2. That's called a cast off. And then I'm just going to knit my way back across. And that's row 2 for my starting the neckline. And yes, I understand that I am going kind of slow because I'm trying to make sure that you guys can see it. I hope that this is coming through okay. I think I need to lower this, honestly. Yeah, that works a little better. I should probably put some paper behind this too, now that I think about it. But yeah, I'm just knitting. For demonstration purposes, I'm not going to keep tossing the project over because that's going to take too long. But yes, with each row, when you get to the flat knitting portion, you are going to need to turn your work. It does get annoying after a while. Yes, it does. That is normal. So there's row 2. Working on row 3. So row 3, when I get back to the next side, I am going to do the knit 2 together again. The reason why I'm showing you how to do this in such detail is because I intended for this video to be for somebody who's never picked up knitting needles before. That's why I'm going into so much detail. If you guys want like a more advanced, less detailed version of this, I can do that. If you want me to do a knit along when I go to make another one, I can do that as well. I really think that making this video beginner friendly will help more people get into knitting. On the note of Gothic, knitting has been used in a form of rebellion for various reasons for probably thousands of years, I would imagine. It was used in the French resistance against the Nazis. Knitting and handcrafting is a way of saying no to capitalism in a way. So if you're wondering, how is knitting goth? Knitting is very goth. So this is, that was row 3. So I did you stick your needle through 2 stitches instead of 1. I'll demonstrate that here. Yes, stick your needle through 2 stitches instead of 1. So you can see it's like that, and then you just knit it like you normally would 1 stitch. I think I need to lower this again. Yeah, that seems a little better. I almost feel like it's zoomed out too far. Okay, so knit 1, knit 2, 1 goes over 2. This is the start of row 4. And yes, I will, when I get to the flat part of the shoulder, I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead when I get to that point, because you won't need to see me doing 24 rows of just 23 knit stitches. That's ridiculous. I'm not to that point yet, though. There we go. Alrighty. There's row 4. Now, this dress is designed to be to measurement, so that's why I'm not telling you like specific stitch numbers, because yours is going to be a different size than mine most likely. When I first made this, the first iteration of this dress that I made, I was much larger than I am. I was like 100 pounds larger, maybe even more than that. So that one had way more stitches per row, and I needed way more rows per each segment of the project. Oops, doing that off camera again. That being said, for the smaller people that choose to follow this, it will likely go faster. And again, yes, knitting does stretch. It does move. That's natural. That's just how knitting works. So if you find that, you know, you put it on and it's too short and you wash it and 3 times later you got to wear it again and, oh my God, it's the length I wanted it. That's normal. I do recommend washing it before wearing it. It's a way of wet blocking is the term. It's where you set the stitches. Crap. My hands are not wanting to work today. And yes, I know my nails are undone and my hands are kind of fucked up looking. I don't really care. I do too much with my hands to go crazy with like nail polish and all that. I do it once in a while, not all the time. Okay, so I'm at the end again. So you stick your needle through 2. Hope you guys can see that. I'm trying to see it around the phone holder, but yeah, there's 2 on there. So you stick your needle through 2, and then you pull a loop through as if you're doing it through just 1. So that was row 5. So now I'm going to do cast off. So you're basically, each time you're doing a row, every single row for the first 9 rows on mine, you are either knit 2 together or cast 1 off to start the V shape. So it looks like that instead of like, you know, a boat or a U-neck. I think boat neck is what they call it. I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm basically trying to make this a V-neck because I feel like V-necks look better on me. If you want to do it differently, there's so many tutorials out there. I really wish I could remember the name of that channel. He's a really great guy. He's very clear on his instructions. I'll look it up in between now and the next time I check in with you guys. There's row 6. Okay. Going again for row 7. I keep getting it off camera again. I think I might need to lift this up and zoom in. Bear with me. There. I feel like that's better. A little bit. Okay. I need a better setup. Also, you don't hear any music in the background because I so don't want to deal with the copyright. Be nice to have some music going right now, though. And yes, I know this segment of the video is taking a ridiculous amount of time, but the things that I'm discussing while knitting, I feel like you guys need to know. I hope that's still, yeah, it is. Okay. So 2 together, that's 7. And then knit 1, knit 2, 1 goes over 2. This is row 8. what I recommend is for the neckline, taking a shirt or something that fits you really well, that you're really comfortable with, that you would want to copy. And then what you can do is you can just knit to fill in the shape of that, like lay your knitting over that and fill in the shape, and then just either increase or decrease where you need to. It's so much easier to do that. I did that for the very first iteration of this. I did that because I have it in leaf green, gray. This is the third time I've knitted it in black. And I do intend to knit it in dark red, dark purple, navy blue, probably a dark green. I'm definitely going to make more than one of these black. I have one that I was wearing earlier in the video. And then this is going to be number 2 because the first one I made, I had to unknit it because it was super long. I made it way too long. That's why I recommend making it to measurements, because I tried to make it based on numbers and that didn't work out well. Alright, this is row 9. So, yeah, that is on screen. It's kind of off center, but I'll get better at this filming shit as time goes on. Alright. I've got to figure out what that channel is. He's a really nice guy, though. I think he's from Germany. Awesome dude. Yeah, his channel is what taught me, one of the channels I used to learn to knit. He's got so many really good, really clear tutorials. They're done in a way where you don't feel like you're being treated like a kid or an idiot, but he's also explaining the kind of stuff that you do need to know. He's really good at the way he does his channel. It's not done condescending. So I've done my rows of decrease to make the V-neck. And yes, I know it doesn't look much like a V-neck, but as it stretches out, it's going to look more like that. It's normal for knitting to stretch to a certain degree. That's why you want to wash it before you wear it the first time to, like, wet block it. More experienced knitters will tell you that, like, you know, there's a certain way to adjust for what they call ease. I haven't figured that out yet. So from here, I am just going to knit all the stitches that are on here straight for a couple of rows. You guys don't need to sit with me through that because that would make this video ridiculously long. So I will check back in with you once I have this one shoulder done, trimmed off, and then I flip it over and I'm ready to start the back. Then I'll check back in with you. Okay, so I'm back. So as you can see, I've got the front facing this way. This is the back. I did look up the channel I was talking about earlier. They are called Nimble Needles. Blech. Forgive my attitude. I've had a bit of frustration trying to record this segment. Yeah, great guy, great tutorials. Very thorough explanation without making you feel like you're a little kid or, like, condescending or anything. Like, the way their videos are arranged is fantastic. So, there's 1 cast off, 2 cast offs, 3 cast offs, and 4. So, when I'm doing the start of the armhole, I cast off 4 on both sides, because it creates kind of like a little flat spot at the bottom of the armhole. That's what I prefer. You don't have to do it. Feel free to do it in your own way if you want to change it up. The nice thing is, with a pattern made to measurements, it's so much easier to customize it. So, because earlier I was explaining I split mine 90 front, 90 back, so cast off 4, which leaves me with knit 86. So your numbers are going to be different. This is just, I'm showing you how I did the starter portion of separating it, because I didn't show you that in the previous clip. I only showed you the shoulder portion, which this is actually going to be, if I turned this around, this would have been the left side that you saw me knit earlier. So now I knit the others. This is just how I do it. If you look up Nimble Needles, they have so many like armhole and sweater neckline tutorials. So if you need like a more in-depth, more thorough explanation, I highly recommend their channel. The other one I highly recommend is Happy Berry Knitting. I learned a lot about like sock knitting from them. There's a lot of really good, really, like, I guess they're beginner friendly, but they don't make you feel like an idiot. And those two channels, Nimble Needles and Happy Berry, they are channels that I learned from. They're not involved in my channel at all, other than I learned from them. If you're just starting out and like you tend to struggle to grasp stuff, I totally recommend their channels. They're great people. Their content's great. You don't have to agree with me. If you don't like them, that's you. Everybody's entitled to their own preferences. Finish this row. Ah, missed it. Yeah, I think this is like my second or third time recording this because my tripod here kept falling over. Driving me nuts. I think I scared the crap out of my cat when I did that frustrated grumble too. She was not happy with me. So, just to recap, this is a made-to-measurement dress. So, your numbers are going to be different than mine. That's why I'm not giving you specific numbers. I'm trying to give you more of the concept of it, so that way you know what to do with your own pattern. Like when you go to make it yourself, if you choose to. What else am I trying to remember to recap? Oh, knitting does stretch and move. It's normal. That's just how knitting works. The material that I'm using is acrylic. It's a mix of Bernat brand and Pound of Love. They are not sponsoring me. That's just what I'm using. Feel free to use it if you want. Okay, so now I finished that first row. I'm going to cast off 4 again because now I'm at the other armhole. So knit 1, knit 2. 1 gets passed over 2. That was the first cast off. Here's the second cast off. The third cast off. If I can figure out how to do it, I may try to tag their channels in here. I don't know. I'm not very good with the YouTube stuff just yet. I'm still learning. But yeah. I also did learn a lot about both knitting and crochet from Jack in the Attic. So that's another channel. Hers is more like storyline, less tutorial for the most part. I love her content though. So there's the 4 cast off. And then because I had knit 86... cast off 4, knit 86. This row is going to be cast off 4, knit 82. So after I do this row, the next, I think it's, 18 rows, I'm going to cast off 1. Oops, that didn't go well. There we go. Am I still on camera? Yes, I am. The next 18 rows, once I finish this one, it's going to be cast off 1 at the beginning, which is just, you knit 1, knit 2, pass 1 over 2, and then by doing that 18 rows, I'll end with 64 when I get to that point. And who knows, I might even try to do this as a time lapse, I don't know. But once I get to doing all of the cast-offs, which by doing that on the outsides, it kind of brings it in like a swoop shape, which gives you really nice, for me, it gives me really nice armhole shape. That's why I do it. If you want your armholes different, feel free to do them different. That's just how I do them. But once I'm done with the 18 cast off rows, then it's just 34 rows of knit 64 stitches for my size. Your size is going to be different. You're going to have a different number of rows, different number of stitches. The nice thing is this is very customizable. And you're going to hear me saying that a lot too throughout the tutorial. I have my I have a big thing of yarn, and it's sitting on the floor in a plastic like basket thing. It's like a square or no rectangle plastic basket thing, just so that way it can roll around in the basket and I'm not going to lose it or get it tangled or dirty. It's just easier for me that way. There's little tips and tricks like that that you'll come up with as you get further into knitting that speed things up a little bit. Also, holding the yarn like this with my finger, that's called continental. You don't have to knit that way if you want to. Turn your project every row or whatever. Do it your own way, whatever makes you comfortable. Whatever works for you. Honestly, I can't wait to get this dress done and wear it. It's such a pretty dress. I think I said this in the previous clip, but I'm going to say it again anyway, just in case I didn't. I do have this pattern in other colors. I first made this when I was much larger than I am. And so I did in that much larger size. It was like, I think an extra 50 stitches per row, something like that. Yeah, like roughly extra 50 stitches per row. So I was able to downsize it because I lost a lot of weight. Because, yay, chronic illness. Anyway, so by downsizing it, like, in the original much larger size, I had leaf green, gray, and then I had a black one, but because of all the issues that caused me to lose weight, it wasn't just too big, it was also way too long because of the way I made it, so I had to unknit that one. Like, I literally took it apart to make the first black dress in this smaller size, which is the one you saw me wearing in the beginning of the video. And so now I'm knitting. This is brand new yarn. This isn't like me taking something apart. So hopefully this one looks even better. Ooh. Before you start getting like mad about, about having like these strings loose, this is the armhole, so when I go to do my pickup stitches to make the arm or the sleeve, this is going to get kind of like woven in a way. So, knit 1, knit 2, pass 1 over 2, almost like you're knitting 2 through 1. Nimble Needles is one of the channels that has a lot of really good explanations on like cast off, knit 2 together, all the, like the specialty stuff. So I highly recommend going and looking at their channel. So by casting off 1, this went from 82 down to a total of 81. So I'm just going to keep going. Honestly, I don't feel like I need to keep showing you guys what I'm doing, because I feel like that's going to make this video super long, which is why there's so many cuts in it. And it does take a long time to, like, get the skirt portion, the lower portion. It was 260 rows of 180 stitches for mine. You guys don't need to see all of that, every single stitch. That's ridiculous. I mean, if you want me to do a stitch along where it's, like, either I work on another dress on a live stream, or when I get to that point, or like maybe if you want me to do like a time-lapse version of knit along, I can do that. Just kind of depends on how much of a demand there is for more of this dress. The nice thing about this dress being made to measurement is you can make it fit you the way you want. You don't have to worry about, is it the right size? You need to go up a size, you need to go down a size. No. That's why I made this to measurement, because it eliminates all the extra fuss, I think. Then again, I could always be wrong. But that's just my preference. And now I'm rambling. So, I'm going to start the next row so you understand what I mean by casting off 1 at the beginning of each row. And I mean literally casting off 1 at the beginning of each row. Oh, I forgot to write down So this is row 1. I like to write down what row I'm on to keep track, because I don't always want to go fussing with stitch markers. And if you don't have stitch markers, you don't need them. You can just write down what rows you're on and just be very thorough about it. And if you're really like a fresh beginner just starting out, then you could make a row, mark it down, and then take a break to give your hands a break. That's something I recommend. You don't have to. I'm just... So, knit 1, knit 2, pass 1, over 2, and you just keep knitting. And so that's how you're going to start your rows. I did 18 because that gives me like a nice open armhole. I don't like my armhole super tight or my elbow area of my clothes super tight. It's just a picky thing. But yeah, I think you've seen enough of me knitting half off screen. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And I will come back when I'm ready to seam the shoulders together. I'm going to do it with the Kitchener stitch. You don't have to. You could just cast these off and then just, you know, whip stitch them together, or just, you know, crochet them together, whatever you want to do. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. That's the nice thing about making shit yourself. So I will be back with you when I'm ready to do the seams. Alrighty. Set up. I will have to trim that. I'm back. So you can either use your folded paper clip or an actual tapestry needle if you have one. You don't have to have one. You can take a paper clip and fold it in half. Let's see if I can get that close enough to the camera. Yep, you can take a paper clip and fold it in half. Since I have a tapestry needle, I'm going to use it. It is a non-sharp needle. You can stab yourself with it a whole bunch of times, and it doesn't usually hurt unless you're really trying. So you're going to measure your string. 1, 2, and 3. Cut it at the 3. I go for 3 times the length of what I'm doing because I prefer to have the extra room to work. You don't have to go that far. You could go 2. It's just a comfort thing for me. It's a preference. So if you have a needle, thread it. If you're working with the folded paper clip, just open it up enough to put the yarn down in the middle and close it. I recommend, if you're doing that method, tape the end of it, the open part of the end of it. You're going to want to tape that open part. So next, what you're going to want to do is take the stitch. Now you're going to start off, this is the Kitchener stitch. If all you did was cast off so you can sew the ends together normally, then go ahead and do that in whatever fashion you prefer. This is the Kitchener stitch. It looks invisible when you're done. That being said, there are lots and lots and lots of really nice tutorials, especially by Nimble Needles. They have a great tutorial on Kitchener stitch. Basically, it looks like you've knitted it. It's an invisible seaming method, long story short. So when you're starting this, you want to have both the pieces you're trying to seam together. You go through like you're purling the front. To start, do not remove that stitch. Knit the back stitch. Do not remove that. You're not done with those stitches yet. Pull them together. And then it's from here, you're doing the repeating. That's the only like difference here. The rest of it's all going to be the same. So knit this stitch off with your tapestry needle, or whatever you're using to close it off. Pull it through. Don't pull it super tight because it won't look right. Then you want to purl go through as if to purl the next one. Or no, you come out from behind. My bad. Leave that one on. It's not finished. You need to go through each of them twice to create the look of a loop. This next one is purl off. Pull it through. Knit it on. That's the easy way. Oops. And see, I screwed up. That's the easy way to remember it. Knit off, purl on for the front. Purl off, knit on for the back. You're basically making it look like continuous knitting. The knitting side that's facing you, you're going to knit off, purl on. The purl side, which is where you're looking at what looks like the wrong side of it, is going to be purl off, knit on. So I did the knit on for the back. So now it's knit off for the front. So pull it through first before you pull that one off. And then once you have your yarn pulled, slide it off. I know this isn't super easy to see. There are channels that have significantly better tutorials on the Kitchener stitch. So then purl on. That's the second half of the front. Oops, you wrapped around again. It's going to do that. Just be patient with yourself the first few times you're doing this. Every so often, stop and check your stitches and make sure that they are matching up. I don't know if you guys can see that, but make sure your stitches are like similar tension. Okay, so that was purl on. Next one in the back is going to be purl off. Pull it through. You can, once you get used to it, you can pull it off before you pull it through. I don't recommend doing that as a beginner. And then you're going to knit on in the back. Okay. Knit off. So knit and then off. Purl stays on. Purl off. Knit stays on the back. Checking the tension of the stitches. Okay. Knit off. Purl on. Oops, it wrapped around. Oh shit, I did that off camera. Purl off, which means you're going through the back. Knit on, you're going in through the front away from you. And the front is away, putting the needle away from you. Knit. And that goes off. Purl on. Purl is the needle or whatever you're using is pointing at you. Just an easy way for beginners to get it. Checking on my gauge. Sometimes I pull it really good and tight and then it'll work itself loose in the laundry. Don't automatically assume it's going to do that. Okay. Purl off. Knit on. Knit off. Purl on. Purl, oops, wrong way, purl off, knit on. Oops, am I going through there right? Yes. Knit off, oops, purl on. I hope you guys can see this okay. And again, like I said, there are lots of channels out there that have significantly better Kitchener stitch tutorials. If mine isn't thorough enough, I highly recommend checking out the channel Nimble Needles if you really want to get into knitting. All right, so I did the purl. So, purl off. Oops, gotta come off there. Knit on. Front is knit off, purl on. Back is purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Once we're done with this side of the front, because I've got the back facing me, so once I get this side of the front, I'm going to count and make sure I have the right number of stitches to match this other side on this side, and then I will cast off in the middle. That's why I always leave the 3 times the length on. Okay, so that was knit on. So knit off for the front, purl on for the front. Whoops, you're getting tangled. And then purl off for the back, knit on for the back. Whoops, you were supposed to stay on, darn it. Oh, it's getting frustrating. Doing this where the camera can see it. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit, oops, on. This is the string from the shoulder that I'm holding on to. When I go to finish this, and yes, I know I left way more than I needed to. It was for being able to not lose stitches while I was working on the back. So what I'm going to do is tie these 2 together before I start the cast off, and then snip the extra off of the front half, and then I'll do the same here before I go to Kitchener stitch this side. And I'll show you when I get there, so that way it makes more sense. Alrighty. Knit off, purl on, through, purl off, knit on. I do it kind of like how you would a running stitch, the way I do my knit and purl. Of course, I've been doing Kitchener stitch longer than I assume anybody watching this video is going to have done it, so I recommend if you don't feel comfortable doing the Kitchener stitch, just do a normal cast off and sew the things together. It's so much easier for beginners. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on. Let's wiggle these stitches around a little bit, loosen things up a tiny bit. And yeah, it really does look like there's nothing there. You can't tell there's a seam there. And especially after it's been through the wash once or twice, you won't even know. So, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on. All right, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on. Oops, that went through wrong. Yeah, I did that wrong. Knit off, I did that backwards. Purl on. See, even those of us who have a couple years experience are still going to do oopsies. Purl off, knit on. I wonder how many of those stitches I did backwards. Oops, I'll watch it back. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Trying to make sure you guys can see this. Oops, that was supposed to stay on. My bad. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. Okay, so I'm at the last stitch in the front. Now you're going to knit this one off, purl this one off. Now, this needle I'm done with, set that off to the side. Like I said earlier, I'm going to take these two and I'm going to do what I call a surgeon's knot, where you pass it through once, pass the tail end through twice, pass the tail end through 3 times. It's like a square knot, but different. You pass it through more times, pull it down good and tight. Do it the other direction. Pass it through once, twice. Alright, I'm back. Sorry, my phone died. So, I did the tie off, which you saw at the end of the last part. So, now I'm going to take this off. And then, where did that go? How's that? There it is. Shit. Come here! Oops, not supposed to cuss on YouTube, doofus. Alright, so I'm doing this with a crochet hook. You can do this with knitting needles, and I'm going to show you how to do it. You knit a stitch. Oops. Knit a stitch. Come on. Rawr. Knit a stitch. Knit 2. 1 goes over 2. That's the standard cast off method. I like to do it with a crochet hook. Pull a stitch through both. Pull that through both. And then I gotta stop and count where I'm at. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 to go. So, chain. You're basically chaining through the stitches. Oops, I am not counting this. I need to be counting. Alright, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23. I'm going to use this like a stitch marker. Now, you can use like other pieces of string or whatever, colored string as a stitch marker if you want to. It's just easier for me to, like, I don't know, skip that part. Oh shit, I'm doing this off camera. So you're basically just, if you're doing it with the crochet hook, you're chaining through them. Crap, and I keep cussing. Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Anyway, so going like this. All right, now I have the same number of stitches here, oops, as I have here. So I need to put this back on the tapestry needle, which is going to take me forever. Sorry, I talk to myself a lot. Yeah. All right, that's back on the tapestry needle. I'm going to go ahead and cast this one, where I'm going to do, oops, come here. There. All right, then I'm going to put this one back on the needle, and then we're going to start the Kitchener stitch all over again. If you are not doing this Kitchener stitch, feel free to skip this part. So, have this, oops, and this lined up. Get that to the end, like that. Oh yeah, I need to, before I do that stitch, what I should have done, get that out of the way. What I should have done was take this and this and knot them together. So I'm going to show you what I was trying to show you at the end of the previous video. 1, 2, 3, pull it nice and tight. 1, oh no, oh no, I dropped a stitch. That, and then you go through there like that. Now stay, darn ya. All right, and then these two go like this. 1, 2, 3. Please tell me that's on camera. Do that. Snip that. And then I have a little bucket. Or, well, I call it a bucket, but it's really a jar. And then I put all my string ends in here. And then I either stuff stuffies or, like, I'll brush them out and maybe respin them eventually, if I can ever get around to it. Okay, so there's that. And then I need to go through here to cast this one off. Back off, I should say. Put you back on there. Ugh. I'm so discombobulated. Alrighty. So, you're going to start off. Oops. Gotta move that. I can look at my notes. So, you start off by purling through the front, knit through the back, but you leave those stitches on. This is setting it up. All right. Ooh, I got to tighten that down. All right. Now we do the repeat. Knit, off, purl, on. Purl, off, knit, on. I've got 23 stitches for the width of my shoulder because I like my shoulders covered. So that's why this is taking a bit. Knit, off, purl, on, purl, off, knit, on, knit, off, purl, on, purl, off, knit, on, knit, off, purl, on. Oops, getting a little tangled there. Oh, I'm doing that off camera, aren't I? Darn it. Purl, off, knit, on. I've had a little too much coffee, I guess. Knit, off, purl, on. Keep pulling it super close to me because I'm used to doing it like practically right up underneath my chin. That's how I do a lot of my stuff. I swear I have crap sight some days. Purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. I understand that this is going to be kind of hard for a lot of you to see it because I'm not zooming in very great, but if you want a better tutorial on the Kitchener stitch, it's spelled similar to kitchen. I recommend looking at the channel Nimble Needles. Happy Berry Crochet has a good one. Or no, Happy Berry Knitting, my bad, because the lady has both knitting and crochet channels. There's a couple of good ones. Honestly, if you just go on YouTube and in the search bar type in Kitchener stitch, which if you start typing in kitchen stitch, they'll correct it for you usually. Knit off, purl on. There's so many much better tutorials out there than this. And I probably will someday do a better tutorial on this. Purl off, knit on. But for right now, I'm just kind of trying to get the dress part of this video focus. Like, that's the focus. Knit off, purl on. And yes, I do have to say this out loud to myself every time I do it, no matter how many times I do it. Purl off, knit on. Knit, oops, no, that was backwards. Knit off, purl on. Oh my god, I keep doing it backwards. Oh my god, Becky, look at her butt. Sorry. Purl off, knit on. Wow, I'm hyper. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Wee. Knit off, purl on. Oh, I'm doing this off camera, aren't I? Purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on. I probably did that backwards on a bunch of stitches, I'd imagine. Oh, no, I didn't. Sugar! Oop, that didn't go through correctly. You're supposed to go through all the way, not through the thread, through the stitch. So, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on. That was backwards. Is this still on camera? No, it's not. Knit off, purl on, keep doing it backwards, purl off, knit on. And I keep doing it off camera. Figures. Maybe I should try tipping the camera back a little bit. That looks better. There. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. Am I getting out of camera again? Yeah. I swear I'll get better at this someday. Knit off, purl on. Wait, if my fingers would work today. Purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Oops, I got off. Stitch. Oh well, I'll fix it. Purl off, knit on. I probably either did one twice or skipped one. Knit off, purl on, purl. I'm going to purl 2 off and knit on because I don't know how else to do that. That's not supposed to be, that's supposed to be purl off. Yeah, that's supposed to be purl. Oh my god, I'm so backwards. Purl off, knit on. And then you do final knit off and the final purl off. I like to make sure I have a little loop left here, and then I pull it through like I'm chaining, and then I pull it all the way through and pull the tail through, and then I snip like that. And then again, this tail goes in to here. So I'm going to take a break, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to pick up stitches around, or no, I mean start the sleeves, because I need to do my big, oh yeah, I did drop, or I did go through 2 stitches. My bad. I found it. I went through 2. That's okay. I'll get better at it. Man, this looks pretty good up until then, though. And there's this big open hole. Oh well, could be worse. But yeah, I'm going to take a break, and then I'll come back and get started on the sleeves. Okay, so I'm back to show you the rest of the sleeves. So I've got my 40 rows of add-on. I got my 48 stitches, and what I'm going to show you next is how I pick up stitches all the way around. My stitches tend to get picked up differently. Now from here, I'm not going into every single stitch, because that's going to make it too tight, or I mean too loose. So skip 1, and there's 49, skip 1, 50, skip 1, or no, yeah, 50, 51, skip 1, 52. Now I tend to go into these ones here because this one's too stretched out and that one's going to be too hard to go through. So that's why I go through these. So hope you guys can see that. There. What number was I on? So 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. That's 53. Okay. Skip that because that can be hard to go into. 54, 55, 56, 57, skip 58, skip 59, skip 60. Okay, let's adjust that. And so I'm trying to get to 70 before I get to the armhole, so I've got to fit another 10 in here. 60, 61. Now I'm down to the last row here. This is the last little tiny one I can't go into, so just so you guys know what I'm skipping. There's 62, 63, 64. Oop, come on. That did not go in between the stitches. 64, 65, 66. Oop, that'll be 4 too short, so I gotta go back a couple. That works out. I'm just showing you guys this part so you understand that it is okay to frog part of your project. Frogging is also the term for unraveling. I don't know why it is, it just is. So 49, 50, 51, 52. I guess I'm going to go into everyone there. 53, 54, 55. Now I'm at the first little tiny one again, so I'm going to skip that one. Going into that one would be insane, so 56. Tiny one, skip it. 57. Skip the tiny one. 58. Skip the tiny one. 59, right? Hold on, let me double check. So 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. Yep. Skip the tiny one. Go into number 60. Skip that tiny one. 61. Skip that tiny one. 62. Skip that tiny one. 63. Now I'm out of the tiny ones. Or no, that. I just got that one. So 64. There's the tiny one. 65, 66, 67. As you're going through it, you're going to want to stretch out your stitches. Make sure you're going through the stitches and not in between them like I just did. So 66, 67, 68, 69. Come on, you. Okay, that one I'm going to have to go down one because it's too tight from the edge of the row there. And then 70. Then I'm going to, I'm moving that too much. I'm going to bridge the gap because this is a space in between stitches. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Yeah, that is a space in between stitches. This is the front, that's the back, or whichever. So, going into that actual stitch, 71. Come on, 72, 73, 74. Oops. Did I go in between? Nope. 74, 75. That one did go in between, right? Yeah. 75, 76. 77. And now we're back to skip the tiny stitches, go into the big ones beside them. 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. Does it feel like an episode of Sesame Street yet? 84, I think. 85, hold on. So there's 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, yep. 85, 6, 87, skip 88, skip 80, oops, 89, skip 90. Oh dear, I have too much opening there. Ah, I fucked it up. Okay, so I guess I gotta go back to the beginning and space them out at the underarm then. That's no big deal. And you're gonna come across problems like this just like I am. Crap happens. So I just skip a few. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that one on because that's 71. Skip you. 72. I'm showing you guys this so you understand that the process, even for those of us that have been doing this for a little bit, isn't exactly straightforward. Skip that 170. 172, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. Oh, come on. 77, 78, 79, 80. 80. Oop, come on. 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, skip 86, skip 87, skip 88, skip 89. Oh, come on. Skip and 90. Yay, it worked! Whee! Okay, so when you get back around to your armpit row, which you might want to, I don't know, stitch marker that. You don't need to. If you feel the need to, go ahead. It's not a necessity. It's just some people prefer to. Now I'm going to go ahead and just normal knit my way all the way around. No special instructions here. You just knit until you're back down to the bottom of the armpit. And then I've got to do 80 rows of just straight once I get back down to the armpit. And yes, once I get back down there, I am going to use my little piece of ribbon, wherever that ended up. I'm so bad at losing stuff. But yeah, you just knit your way around until you get back to where the armpit is, and then you do 80 rows. So I will be back when I have that done, because you don't need to see every stitch that I do. That's ridiculous. Okay, so here I am. I'm at the end of the last row of the straight like tube portion, and so I'm going to knit these 2 stitches. I'm leaving 1 stitch technically before the end of the row, and what you want to do is with your left needle go through the front and pick up this little bar in between, and then you slide your right needle under to where they're crossed like this. This is what you want. So I'm going to show you that again. Now it can be a bit fiddly in the beginning, and this will tighten your project if you choose to use this increase. There's other increases you can do, but then you knit through it, and this may be referred to as a knit purlwise in other patterns. I call it a twisted make one, but then you want to knit. You never want to do them right next to each other or through the same space. It's not going to work out right, and it's going to end up too tight. So then we're going to go into the next one underneath the bar with the left needle. The right needle has to go behind the left needle. I always have to do it up and over like that because of my tension. But then you just knit through like you normally would. And then they end up twisted. I don't know if you guys can see how twisted that is. But yeah, what you're doing is you're basically, instead of going through the knit stitch the way you normally would, where you go through the front, pull the loop through the front, you're kind of going through the back and pulling the loop through the front. So what used to be a bar in between stitches gets twisted. That's the best I can explain it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that one down. And then when I come all the way back around to this point again, where I'm ready to make the next ones, I will show you how I do that. Okay, so I'm back again at the end of the next row. Now, these last 3 stitches here, These are the make one, knit one, make one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, you're going to knit the one you made. Then you're going to go under the bar next to it with the left needle. Now the right needle is supposed to go through the back like that, but I can't always get it through there because of the way my tension works. So what I do is I put the right needle under the left needle and swoop it up and over, keeping the stitch on both needles. And then you knit like normal, and what it does is it creates a twisted stitch, and this ends up not as open, especially after you wash this for a couple times. Like for me, it always straightens itself out the first time I wash it, which I always watch it before wearing it once it's completed. Like, unless I'm just wearing it around the house to try it on, make sure it fits. But, like, I don't wear these out in public until I've washed them. And so here's the knit stitch we left alone the first time. So we're going to knit that one. And then before the added stitch, you're going to go under the bar, swoop it over, because that's the only way I can do it with how tight I keep my tension. And then you knit like you normally would. And it comes off and it twists itself. And what that does is it tightens the gap, because if you just went under the bar without the twist, it would end up with this like huge gap. And while that works if you're like trying to do a lacy pattern, I want this to be able to like wear it outside in like 40 or below Fahrenheit. So like I have worn this when it was actively snowing and even freezing rain, the one that I had in the beginning of the video. I've worn it during those like high wind, freezing rain, stuff like that, because I get hot really easy. I have a condition called heat urticaria, which means I break out in hives if I get too hot. So for me, I don't need a coat with this most of the time, unless it's like really, really, really cold, like below zero. Then yeah, I will either wear a coat or wear something else with a coat. But yeah, this works out really good. Now, each row you'll notice you're doing 2 twisted make ones. So you are going up by 2 numbers. So for me personally, I had 90 stitches per row. I already did the 1 row with the make 2 twisted, where it's make a twisted, knit 1, make a twisted. And I always recommend leaving at least 1 knit stitch in between, otherwise it's going to get really tight and really hard to work in that spot, especially as you go further along. And like, it just, you don't do 2 right next to each other. It just doesn't work out the way that knitting goes. Knitting has its own physics, if you haven't figured that out already. It has its own physics, it has its own maths, it has its own do's and don'ts. But long story short, I am adding 2, yeah, sorry, the dog upstairs is going apeshit, but yeah, I'm adding 2 stitches per row. And so that does mean that the rows are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I started off with 90. I already did 1 row, so that became 92. This row made it 94. And it's going to keep going like that. So I do recommend trying this on somewhat frequently. Like when I designed the pattern, I was trying it on every 10 rows once I did the increase, because I wanted to make sure that the sleeves weren't getting either too long for my arm or too close to the ground. If you want it on the ground, that's up to you. Just do it your own way. But I'm going to knit my way back around to this point again. And when I get back, I will show you how to do it again, just in case it wasn't clear. You don't have to have stitch markers. You don't have to use them at all technically, but you can use different colored string. You can use bread tie, piece of paper if you got a sturdy piece of paper. There's so many different ways that you can do that. There have been times in the past where going around the circular knitting needles, I would use a ring, like an actual jewelry ring. There's so many different ways to do that where you don't have to buy something. These were a Christmas gift eons ago, like I want to say at least 10 years ago. Those were a Christmas gift, could be less than that. But yeah, so this is hopefully I'm explaining this in a way that is very beginner friendly. If you need any more thorough instructions, or if you need me to slow it down or whatever, feel free to comment down below, but please keep it, polite and non-combative. That's all I ask. As long as you're saying, hey, I didn't get that, it's fine. I just don't want anybody being absolutely rude. So what I'm going to do, like I said earlier, I'm going to knit my way back around, come back, and show you where I'm at. Show you again. Okay, I'm back. So I'm going to show you this again. And I'm going to try to get this much closer this time. So, this is the stitch I made from before. So, I'm going to knit through that stitch like I normally would. There's nothing special about that stitch now. So what I'm going to do now is pick up the bar from in between the stitches. Then I'm going to pass the right needle to the bottom. I swoop it over the top because the way my tension is, I can't sneak it in the back like you're supposed to. And then you just knit through like you normally would, but it ends up twisted. I'll show you that again. Knit the one in the middle. And then there's the previous make one. So I'm going to pick up the bar in the middle with the left needle. You just go in the front and pick it up like you would, like you're picking up a drop stitch. And then you go into the next one. Or no, you put your right needle in under it. And then you swoop it up and over. You want to make sure the same stitch stays on both needles. And then you just knit through it like you're knitting a normal stitch. So there's the swoop. Knit through like you're knitting a normal stitch. Oops, I went through the yarn and not under it. So get that on there and then go through the yarn. And you'll notice as this goes, things will start to tighten up the more of these rows you make. That is normal. There's not really much of a way to stop it as far as I'm aware. But I'm going to get to where I have 10 increase rows done. And then once I have the 10 increase rows done, I will come back real quick and show you guys what it starts to look like. And then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so like I said, I'm back at the end of the 10th row of add-on. So you can see it would have gone straight here, but it angles out like this, and it's going to continue to angle out like that. This is the overall, like, intended angle of it. If you want to add more and have it hit the floor, like, go down towards the floor sooner, feel free. This is a very adjustable pattern. But I just wanted you to see what I'm talking about, like this was the stitch marker from the last row where I did it just the tube, where it's the same number of stitches just done in a spiral. So you can see it really does go out fast. So this is why I'm suggesting this is how much it goes. So every 10 rows, unless you've already made this dress, you're going to want to try it on. Make sure that you're at the right length and everything, because like, you don't want it to be hitting the ground super fast. And so if you need to make the straight tube part of the sleeve longer and start the angled part of the sleeve like below the elbow, that's fine. You just gotta kind of adjust it and pay attention. But yeah, so the next time that I'm come back on camera, I will have this done and I will try it on. It's not gonna be washed by that point, but I'm gonna have this on and done, so that way you guys can see what it's going to look like done. And then, depending on when I get it washed, because this is acrylic, so I have to hang dry it, I may include that in the end of the video. I just don't know. I don't think I'm going to, though, because that'll make this video several days longer in production. So, but yeah, before I go any further, this video did take me a long time to film. That was more a logistics and technical problem than the actual knitting. The knitting itself didn't take me long at all, but I just wanted you guys to know that that's how this sleeve goes. And so, yeah, basically the next time you see me, the dress will be done and everything will be ready to go. And that'll be it. Okay, so I finished the dress. And this is what it looks like so far. I have not washed it yet. Because this is acrylic, I don't like to throw acrylic in the dryer. So it would take probably 3-4 days of hang drying. I live in a wet and humid environment. So I feel like in order to end the video in a timely fashion, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. This has not been washed. I highly recommend you wash yours before you go wearing it anywhere. This is just so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. This is the puff sleeve that I was trying to explain. This line here is the twisted make one. And this is what it looks like finished on me. It will look a lot looser and flowier after being washed. Hence the reason why I suggest washing it. Right now it looks really stiff because I haven't washed it. After washing it, the stitches will even out. Like, some of my stitches are a little bit loose and some are like really tight. It's just because as I'm like doing the first few rows on the next day is going to be a little bit tighter or a little bit looser. It's just natural. It's just the way knitting works. Yes, I know there's a catch here. My cat did that. But I just wanted you guys to get the chance to see what it looks like finished. This is my end result. You can make the sleeves to where they go further down the arm. You can make this part go longer by starting further up the sleeve if you want it to go longer down, especially if you have shorter arms. There's a wide range of ways to alter this pattern. Like I did 2-stitch ribbing on the edge of both sleeves and the bottom. You don't have to do that. So I just figured, I hope this tutorial was as beginner friendly as intended. I would say this is more like, you might have to know a few things in order to get this video done. The original intent was for me to explain it as thoroughly as possible so you don't have to know things ahead of time. There are probably going to be a lot of questions. I expect that. The channel I learned to knit from primarily was Nimble Needles. Great channel. Also, the point behind making the tutorial, because I often just make stuff and just wear it. I saw a video from the channel Jack in the Attic. Great channel as well. They had said that they wanted more goth knits. So that was part of why I had decided to make a tutorial for this. There is not a written pattern. It is measurement based. It is very customizable. You should be able to pretty much get the same results per your measurements as I have, because this is measurement based. This is not like number based, size based. It is a really customizable pattern. It is a very adjustable pattern. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am naturally creative, and I intend to make more goth knits and more goth crochets in the future, as well as like some whimsy goth decor stuff for, like, I don't know, like some of the decor stuff you see in the background. Some of that stuff, like, there are things that I've made myself. So if you want more of that content, bleh, feel free to say so in the comments below. All I ask is that you keep your comments at least polite. You don't gotta be super nice and wishy-washy, just don't be an ass.